Whatever shit, Timmy's here. Now, here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films that turns 10, 20, and 30 this week. Alright. The films celebrating their 10th anniversary. We, of course, Alright, right. There. Forgot to get you it. My bad. Let me get you my email. Alright. The films celebrating their 10th anniversary. Just got the film The Other Woman. Now, of course, The Other Woman was actually one of the last movies that Cameron Diaz did before her retirement here. And if you guys, and this is of course had the likes of Kay Upton, Leslie Mann, Nicola Cassawato. You also had Nicki Minaj was also in this, and it's pretty much about these two, these women who finds out that their date is pretty much seeing each one of them, and so they decide to team up to plot their revenge on them. It really has a little bit of a John Tucker Must Die feel. But The Other Woman is a lot of fun. It didn't really get much love or praise or anything like that, but it is a lot of fun to watch. You had Taylor Kinney, who you might know from Chicago Fire fame. Of course, Nicki Minaj. Don Johnson was also in this. It's a really again, it did not really get much love at the time, but I actually had a fun time with it. It's not a great film. It's not like one of Cameron Diaz's best work or anything like that. But it was pretty decent. I'm glad to see Cameron Diaz trying to make a little bit of a comeback. This year, she's in a new movie with Jamie Foxx. I still do miss Cameron Diaz. I believe the last movie she did was Annie, but this was, of course, one of her last things she did here. So, yeah. Anyway, another film that turns 10. We got Brick Mansion. Now, sadly, this is actually the last movie that Paul Walker starred in. Technically, Paul Walker's last film was Furious 7, but this was actually his last starring film he did. And you also had RZA was also in this, and it's pretty much a dystopian. It takes place in dystopian Detroit, where grand houses that once housed the wealthy are now home to the city's most dangerous criminals. And surrounded by surrounding the area is a giant wall to keep the rest of Detroit safe. And so of course you got undercover cop Damon Collar, played by Paul Walker, and every day is a battle against corruption as he struggles to bring his father's killer Tremaine, played by RZA, to justice. Paul Walker, he did the best he could, but yeah, this was not that great a film. Paul Walker, I've always liked Paul Walker, but it's not like every film he did turned to gold. And this was one of the, it had some cool action sequences and all, but yeah, it really was not that good in my opinion. The film is also from the same director who will go on to do the Hitman Agent 47, which that movie is actually a little better. I think she didn't do Hitman Agent 47. I think she did Transport Refueled is what she did. Not those are a little bit like, to be honest. But yeah, R.I.P. Paul Walker. But this was not too much a good effort in my opinion. All right. Also turning 10, we got The Quiet Ones. Now, this is a horror film that stars Jared Harris as a university professor attempting to prove poltergeists are manifestations of the human psycho and non-supernatural beings. You also had Olivia Cook, who will obviously go on to star in on House of Dragons. You had some other I believe Sam Claflin was in this. And to be honest, this movie was awful. It was not all that scary. Jared Harris was okay, but it was completely boring. I remember watching this one in theaters back in 2014. I did not really care for it much, so I don't think I even watched it since I saw this film. But yeah. All right, also turning 10, we got A24's Locke. Now, this movie stars Tom Hardy, who plays a man who life is unraveled after he leaves a construction site at a critical time and drives to London to present to the child's birth. But there's but he of course comes on a number of speaker phone conversations with characters' voice here, and it's pretty much like Tom Hardy or in the car. Tom Hardy is like literally the only major person like physical person here. Some of the voice sounds that you actually do hear includes like Olivia Colman, a very young Tom Holland. Like this was before Tom Holland became very big with this MCU. So I mean, technically this had like a Venom and Spider-Man together, but you know, not physically, I guess. But it's actually a really interesting film. I mean, I always do love these, one location films, where it features someone in a just in one location, whether it's something like, the beach in, let's say, Castaway, or Ryan Reynolds in Barry. I mean, something about these films is always really intriguing, and this is a really decent one. I mean, it definitely has more of like a phone booth vibe at the time too. Tom Hardy gave a really good performance here. Directed by Stephen Knight, who did a good job in this. I mean, if you guys have not seen Locke, I'll say give it a go. It's a really good one. All right. Films turning 20 this week. Dirty Going on Dirty. Now, this movie stars Jennifer Garner, uh, who, of course, obviously, plays like this woman who ends up going from 13 to dirty after a birthday wish. Uh, and of course, she wakes up in like a 30-year old, and she of course falls for like Mark Ruffalo's character. You also had like Judy Greer. There's a really iconic dance moment. You had lots of MCU stars in this, by the way. You had Jennifer Garner, who of course not MCU until Deadpool and Wolverine, but obviously Elektra. Mark Ruffalo, who obviously was the Hulk. Judy Greer, who was in like the Ant-Man movies. Brie Larson, who was of course Captain Marvel. Andy Serkis, who was in like Black Panther. So you had lots of former Marvel stars before like before their they did Marvel here. And Dirty Going on Dirty is a like it's definitely tasty. Definitely has a little bit of like a big Freaky Friday feel to it. Jennifer Garner is very charming in this. I mean, it's a really decent little film. If you guys haven't seen that, yeah, again, lots of people probably have seen Dirty Going on Dirty. I mean, come on. And obviously, that dance scene, one of the most iconic dance scenes in movie history. So, all right. Also turning 20, we got Man on Fire, directed by the late great Tony Scott, starring Denzel Washington, who portrays John Creasy, a deponent alcoholic, former CIA SAD slash SOG officer, uh, who goes on a revenge rampage after his charge after his charge 9 year Lupita Peter Ramos, played by Nicole Fanning, is abducted in Mexico, and he also had the likes of Christopher Walken, Mark Anthony, Mickey Rourke. It's a really terrific film. I mean, Tony Scott, obviously one of the most iconic filmmakers there is. From Top Gun, The Hunger, Beverly Hills Cop 2. Who doesn't love Tony Scott? R.I.P. Tony Scott. Of course, he's worked with Denzel tons of times. His last movie was Unstoppable, which also had Denzel in it. And this was a really decent collaboration. The chemistry between Denzel and Dakota Fanning was really decent. Obviously, they will go on to work together again in The Equalizer 3 last year. I mean, it's a really decent one. The cinematography is really cool. The performances by the cast is really decent. I mean, if you guys never seen Man on Fire, definitely give this one a go. All right. We're also turning 20. We got Clifford's Really Big Movie. Of course, this was the Clifford the Big Red Dog feature film. Of course, at the time, Clifford was a very popular animated show, which had the late great John Ritter. John Ritter. Sadly, this was actually John Ritter's last movie before he passed away. And you had some really decent voice talents. You had Wayne Brady, Jenna Elfman, Kel Mitchell. Whoever knew that Kel from Kenan and Kel voiced T-Bone? Come on. Cree Summer, Ernie Hudson, Judge Reinhold, John Goodman. And the film depicts Clifford joining a traveling animal show known as Larry's Amazing Animals with his best friends, with his best friends, and of course, Larry, voiced by Judge Reinhold, the owner and ringmaster, won't allow animals already owned by others in the show, so they pretend that They have force pet tags, and I always loved Clifford. Like it was always one of my go-to shows when I was a kid. And Clifford's a really big movie. I always enjoy this one. Who did not love Clifford back then? It's really charming. Really like John Ritter, R.I.P. John Ritter. He voiced Clifford perfectly. You know, uh, obviously T-Bone and Cleo. I mean, Clifford has always been so iconic, and of course they did do a live action Clifford, which was pretty decent, but nothing really beats John Ritter's Clifford. I mean, who did not love Clifford growing up? All right, now films turning 30 this week. We got the Western classic Bad Girls. The film follows four former prostitutes on the run following a justified homicide and prison escape, who later encountered difficulties involving bank robbery and Pinkerton detectives. Now you got the likes of Drew Barrymore, Madeline Stowe, Robert Loga, Dermot Mulroney, Annie McDowell. Bad Girls is a really fun one. The chemistry between the cast is really decent. Of course, this was like a pure Western film from the '90s. I mean, if you guys never seen Bad Girls, give it a go. But to be honest, if that movie was released today, I'll tell you right now, if Bad Girls was released today, I'm telling you right now, people would call that movie woke garbage. It got a lot of praise back then. Like lots of people enjoyed it from the '90s, but let's be for real. If that movie came out today, people would just call it woke. So yeah, because people just like using the word woke a lot. Like it makes them feel cool. All right. Also turning on there, we got Chasers, which was directed by Dennis Hopper, and also saw the likes of Tom Berenger and William McNamara. And it's about like a pair of U.S. Navy shore patrollers, played by Berenger and McNamara, who must escort a beautiful prisoner played by Erica Elsenak, and the troubles they encounter. This was also the last feature-length film that Dennis Hopper directed. And you also had the likes of Crispin Glover, Gary Busey, Dean Stockwell. I love Dennis Hopper, but this one is a little forgettable. I don't even remember much about it. I probably watched it only once, and maybe that's it. But yeah. I mean, Dennis Hopper, of course, at the time was still, was still doing it. Like, of course, this was around the same time he also did play the villain in Speed. He was much better in Speed. But I believe he's directed other stuff beforehand. I mean, Dennis Hopper is a living legend, but not every living legend has a hit, and this was one of the ones that's not a hit. All right. Also turning dirty, we got Brainscan. Now, Brainscan stars Edward Furlong. Uh, and if you guys don't know much about the story, for that, of course, Edward Furlong was really popular thanks to Terminator 2 here. Uh, and it's where horror films and computer games fascinated teenager Micah, played by Furlong, and a CD-ROM that portrays murder from the killer's point of view, combines these interests. The first time Micah plays it, he kills a stranger and cuts off and pretty much dismembers his body part here. Thinking the events take place in a virtual reality, but the next day, Michael finds a foot in his refrigerator, and a cyber ghoul trickster emerges from the program and forces him to keep playing here. Now you also had like Frank Langella. I mean, Brainscan is a really fun horror film from from the nineties. You know, this was also directed by John Flynn, who by the way also gave us I believe he gave us Child's Play 2 if I'm not mistaken. Oh, let me double check. Brainscan. I always thought this was a Peter Jackson film, but anyway, it's been a while since I've seen Brainscan. But of course, oh no, John Flynn, the stuff like The Outfit, Lock Up, the Steven Seagal movie Out for Justice. I mean, he's put out some really intriguing stuff here. And Brainscan, I think right now, Brainscan is. I know people, poo poo on the idea of remakes and everything, Brainscan is literally a film that I could totally see get a remake in today's world. With today's virtual realities have going around with the VR systems and everything, they should totally do a reboot of Brainscan today. But this movie is actually pretty gruesome than you expect. Of course, Edward Furlong, coming off of T2 was pretty good in this. It's been a while since I've seen it, I admit, but I remember really enjoying it when I first saw it, and it's very gruesome at times, but it's a lot of fun. Like it's '90s pure horror joyness. I mean, before like Scream came around, there was lots of really cool like horror stuff in the early '90s before even Scream came around, and Brainscan definitely one of them. But that's pretty much it there. Let me leave you guys. Which of these films then actually the most? To me, the Tanya one is probably the other woman. I mean, I know people was probably gonna say Locke, which is cool, but I really had a fun time with the other woman. The 20 one is gonna go to Dirty Going on Dirty, and the 30 one for me will be it's actually gonna be Brain Scan. Like if you guys never seen Brain Scan, definitely give that one a go. But anyway, drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Human Sign Off.